What's up, everyone? My name is Ethan. This is Courtside TV. If you're new, don't forget to subscribe, and let's get into it. So today, we're going to preview the Atlanta Hawks and the New York Knicks playoff matchup in the first round. This is certainly one of the most interesting series that happens in the first round. I think this is going to be a really close one, and this pick is the one that I had the hardest time making because I just have no idea which way this series is going to go. So let's get into the Hawks and the Knicks. And I think I said the other day that I would make a video on the Blazers and Nuggets series. Didn't end up getting around to that one. There was no video yesterday because I was mourning the loss of the Warriors season. The season ended before I thought it was going to because I figured they would make it out of the play-in tournament, but did not go well. I'm sure you all can relate that after your team is eliminated, it kind of is it's a little hard on you. So I was mourning the loss of the Warriors for the year. Steph Curry had a great season. So that video was not happening because that series already started, but I do want to make a pick for it. I was going to go with Nuggets in 7. As I'm recording this, they're actually still playing right now in the fourth quarter. It's close. So I have that game up on my other monitor actually as I'm recording. But yeah, that's my pick for that series. Yeah, let's talk about Knicks and Hawks for today. So yeah, Hawks and Knicks. This is the 4-5 matchup in the Eastern Conference. The New York Knicks have the home court advantage. They're the 4 seed here, and so they will have home court if this goes to 7, and they're starting in New York. So this is, in my opinion, the hardest one to pick in the first round, I think. Just because both of these teams are new to the postseason. You know, we haven't seen either of these teams in the playoffs for a number of years, and even when they last were in the playoffs, it was completely different incarnations of both squads, obviously. So this is a playoff debut for a lot of these players, and we just have no idea how they're going to look in this postseason format. So the Knicks are a team that's been good all season long, unexpectedly, right? They made this jump to, a lot of people had projected them as one of the worst teams in the entire league. They end up with home court advantage in the first round of the playoffs. Just an amazing season by New York. They've ridden their defense all the way. You know, they have one of the best defenses in the league. Tom Thibodeau has coached this team to know absolutely how to guard and what to do. So they've been really awesome defensively, and that's what's put them in this position. Their offense is not great, if we're honest, but they have a lot of players who have made a ton of strides this year. Specifically, of course, Julius Randle, RJ Barrett as well are two of those guys, and even Nerlens Noel is another one who has really stepped up and played super well this season. So the Knicks are just a team that is well coached. They know how to play together. They ride their defense, and they've gotten themselves in this position to be a home court advantage team. Meanwhile, Atlanta is, you know, a team that's kind of been building this core for a couple of years now. They got a lot of young guys who are starting to gel this season, and added a ton of veterans in the offseason. Of course, you know, you getting Bogdanovich, getting a guy like Danilo Gallinari, and then you trade for Lou Williams at the midpoint of the season. So you bring in all these veterans here to go along with the young core of Trae Young, John Collins, DeAndre Hunter, Cam Reddish, you know, Kevin Huerter. You can go down the line, right? So this Hawks team is kind of similar to New York in a way that they have, you know, a couple of veterans here and then also a couple of young guys that kind of make up this roster that has been really well coached ever since the turnover from Lloyd Pierce into Nate McMillan, and kind of getting this team together and playing well, and they've just been riding this success all season. So both of these teams have really been good all year, and that's evidenced by the fact that they're in this 4-5 matchup in the Eastern Conference. They both had good records all season, and so because they're both new to the playoffs, I just have no idea what to make of either team, to be honest. So when I'm making a pick for a series, I usually go back and look at some of the matchups from the regular season between the two teams, and I usually don't take it too much into account because I feel like, you know, teams are playing, you know, guys are in and out of the lineup. There's guys out due to injury, guys are playing through injury, you know, you might not be giving it 100% effort throughout the regular season. So usually I tend to kind of throw those things out, but I do think there are some notable things from these matchups between these two squads in the regular season. First of all, the Knicks swept the Hawks this year. It was 3-0 for the New York Knicks. They beat them all 3 times that they played, and in each of those matchups, Julius Randle was an absolute nightmare for Atlanta to guard. If we just look at his box score total here, he had, in one game, he had 28 points, then he had 44 points, and then he had 40. So, you know, 2 of the 3 games he had over 40 points, and in the other one, he was almost at 30. So he was completely torching them every single time they've played this year. And, you know, you can look at that and say, well, the Hawks really don't have somebody to guard Julius Randle very well. You know, you can try to put Gallinari on him, but he's not been a great defender. Randle's a little bit too big to maybe, you know, have Cam Reddish or DeAndre Hunter be able to do anything to him. Obviously, Kevin Huerter is not really going to be able to help much. If you get him switched on to Trae Young, it's barbecue chicken because Trae is one of the worst defenders in the league. You can try Clint Capella on Julius Randle, and he is a good defender, but sometimes, Capella is really good around the rim, and Randle is, has turned himself into a perimeter player, and so if you kind of drag Capella out to the perimeter, he might get into a little bit of trouble there, and he also might get himself into foul trouble, and you're going to need him against some of the New York Knicks big men as well. So that's kind of the main thing here, is that Julius Randle has been the Knicks' best player this season, and the Hawks really don't have a player to be able to put on him, and that showed in the 3 times they played. Julius Randle scoring over 40 points twice out of the 3 matchups, so that is definitely a concern for Atlanta. And then also for Atlanta, I think they're going to have trouble potentially guarding some of the Knicks point guards. You have, Derrick Rose obviously on this team. Emmanuel Quickley has had a great rookie season. And those are 2 guys that are going to be able to attack Trae Young in that matchup, because like I said, Trae Young is, simply put, one of the worst defenders in the NBA. It just is true. Obviously, he's amazing on the offensive side of the ball, but when it comes to defense, he's just not big enough, he's not strong enough, he's not quick enough to be able to really match up with anybody. So Trae Young, while I think he's gotten better since his rookie year, is still not a great defender. And so the Knicks are going to have to, try to hunt that matchup with everybody regardless. Try to get, Trae Young switched onto obviously a bigger player like Julius Randle or like RJ Barrett. But even if, you get that matchup, that point guard matchup, whoever Trae Young is trying to guard, whether that's Reggie Bullock or whether that's, Derrick Rose or Emmanuel Quickley, like I said, or Elfrid Payton if he's playing or whatever like that, right? Whatever that matchup is, they're going to be attacking Trae Young. And so that's the other thing of concern, right, is that are they going to be able to guard Derrick Rose as well as Julius Randle? Because, even if you try to put in some other defensive guards in there, right, I remember in the offseason when they signed Chris Dunn, I really, really liked the move because I was like, okay, this gives them an option to be able to put in a defensive point guard and play him alongside Trae, or maybe stagger those minutes just a little bit and put him in when they really need a stop, because Chris Dunn has been one of the best defensive point guards in the entire league. But he has barely played this year. He's only played 4 games. He came back for 3 games after missing most of the season with an injury. And then he played 1 more game a couple of days later, and really wasn't in the rotation. And he hasn't played for the last 5 games of the Hawks regular season, so he hasn't been in the rotation at all. Maybe they throw him out there in this series, but I believe that ankle was acting up on him again, so I don't even know if he's healthy. But potentially, if Chris Dunn is able to get into the lineup, then they could try him on some of the Knicks point guards. But it's definitely going to be a challenge for them to try to guard some of this Knicks offense. Even though the Knicks don't have a great offense, they have some players that kind of mismatch against Atlanta here. And then for the Knicks side of things, obviously they have a great defense. We've seen the numbers for them all year. And, specifically, if we want to talk about what they're going to do for Trae Young, I would assume that most of their defensive attention is going to go to him and making sure that he can't tear them up in the pick and roll, can't, shoot from deep on them, and can't, get his game and get his rhythm going, because Trae is clearly the Hawks star, and so they're going to have to find a way to do something on him. But they have some good options to potentially defend him with. Elfrid Payton is a solid defender at the point guard position, even if he sucks on offense. You can throw RJ Barrett on him. He's got the kind of size and the quickness to match up with him on the perimeter. Derrick Rose isn't a great defender, but he can potentially do okay. Frank Ntilikina is a guy who, has played sparingly, has played sort of inconsistently, but he is that defensive specialist point guard that you could potentially throw out and try to see what he can do on Trae. Quickley is not a great defender in his rookie year, so, who knows how that one's going to go, but I would imagine that the Knicks will focus a lot of their defensive attention on Trae Young, and that Tom Thibodeau will come up with a good game plan in order to potentially, guard him to their max capacity. So I think the key for New York here is having enough offense to put enough points on the board to be able to beat the Hawks, because I think they're going to be able to do well on them defensively. I have complete faith in the Knicks defense here. I don't think this is a mirage. They've been at the top of the leaderboard all season long, up near the top of the league in pretty much every defensive metric. They're a very, very good defensive team. And so I have faith that they'll be able to do good enough on the Hawks to be able to slow them down. Offensively, they're going to have to rely a lot on Julius Randle, who, like I said, is sort of a mismatch here for the Hawks, and they're going to have to, just hope that their guys continue to make shots, and that really hasn't been a problem for them. You have these good shooters, you have, obviously, Derrick Rose, Alec Burks is back in the lineup, Reggie Bullock, RJ Barrett can score as well. So you just hope that those guys are hot enough and are able to put enough points up that you're able to, squeak past it. I expect these to be a little bit lower scoring games than maybe you might be expecting, just because I think the Knicks try to slow the pace of the game down, and we've kind of seen them do it all year. For Atlanta, the game plan just has to be trying as hard as you can to limit Julius Randle, make sure that he does not dominate you, figuring out a defensive game plan, whether that's, using Clint Capella on him early and risking the foul trouble there, or just hoping that some of your bigger wings can do enough to make life hard on him. That's going to be, I think, the biggest challenge for Atlanta in this series. Offensively, I think they should be able to score still, even though I do believe the Knicks defense is good. I think Atlanta's offense is good as well. And Nate McMillan has done a good job with this team ever since he took over, and I think he can come up with a good offensive game plan in order to find guys open shots. So you're just gonna have to hope that some of these young guys step up and are ready here. Whether it's John Collins or DeAndre Hunter or Cam Reddish or Trae Young, just hoping that one of those guys is ready to step up and sort of take over a game and play at a consistent level throughout this series to be able to get some points up there for you. I think you can rely on a lot of the veterans. Bogdanović and Gallinari have been there before. I guess Bogdanović hasn't been in the playoffs, but Gallinari has, and he's been in these big moments. So you just hope that those guys show up as well, and I think they'll be okay. So this is definitely going to be a close series. I know that in this video I was a lot more optimistic on the Knicks than maybe the Hawks, and I do think this is a mismatch here just because of the way that we saw these matchups play out in the regular season. But I absolutely believe this series is going to be super, super close, and I think this is going to be a really good one. So I see a lot of people picking the Knicks, and I think that is, half picking the Knicks and half just hoping that they win, because I think pretty much everybody outside of Atlanta wants to see New York do this. It's just been so long since they've been good, and it's such a surprise season. It's sort of a Cinderella story, so we're kind of hoping that New York is able to get past the first round and see what they can do on this playoff run that was certainly unexpected. So I think a lot of people are going to pick New York in this one. Atlanta is absolutely a justifiable pick as well. I think they're super good, and like I said, I think this series is going to go the distance. I will take the New York Knicks in 7 games. But yeah, that's all I have on this first round playoff matchup. Like I said at the top of the video, if you're new, don't forget to subscribe, leave a like, ring the bell if you want to. Leave a comment letting me know what you guys think about this series, who is your pick going to be, and how many games do you think it's going to be. Would love to hear your thoughts down below. But yeah, with all that said, I'll see you guys in the next one.